Hey, folks, and welcome to March 18th edition of Money and Politics Now. And we are coming at you a little late tonight. Do you ever have one of those days where you're trying to get things done and you keep getting interrupted and you keep getting interrupted? Well, it seems like all afternoon I'm getting a phone call, and I wanted to talk to a number of the people. So it's not like in case my friends who were talking to me, I wanted to talk to them and maybe did some business that'll amount to something in both money and politics. But the point is, I'm coming to you late, and so I didn't get a chance to prepare some things that I might otherwise have prepared. So, just briefly, we always like to touch base with where we are and on the humble stock market move and news. I think there is just a little profit taking today. I will tell you that, as you can see at the top there, above the red line, just above there, that you had the S&P down 1.5% almost. You had the Dow down about 0.5%, the NASDAQ down, what is it, harder, about 3%, and the Russell 2000 also down, and that was close to 3%. So I would just tell you that every single stock in my portfolio, there wasn't, I don't think I had a green one in there. Everything was red today for me. I think I don't have it open anymore. So it's just one of those days, and there's nothing tied per se to humble. And if we look, I'm going to take a look at an update, and my before I leave humble, my overall view on that is that we are going to, as we go forward in the year here between now and June, I think we're going to get a number of things happening. We're going to start to have some news. There's been kind of a quiet period, not a whole lot going on. And I think, again, I suspect they've been working feverishly, George Foote and his team, behind the scenes. And I think we even have evidence of that. They're probably hiring people. They did the Tickery deal. They got to integrate Tickery into the company. They have to integrate it into the app. They got to do their due diligence on the app, both technically and legally. They just did the deal with Oria down in Chile. So we're seeing the deals are going on, and they're moving forward. So I think they've done already a lot, and I'm not going to take a whole lot of time here just to recount what we already know if you're watching the story. So my advice has been what it has always been. I had one friend today, well, I want to get out of it, and I'm like, you can do whatever you want, but I think it would be a dumb move. She didn't have that much in her portfolio. She has less than 1% of her portfolio in Humble. And I go, that could go to zero. Humble could go to zero and it wouldn't impact you. On the other hand, it offers the opportunity for substantial gain. So, if 100% of your portfolio, and maybe you only got $500 to invest, and God bless you, maybe that's your 100% of your portfolio. But I think it's going to bring substantial gain, is what I think. I don't have a crystal ball, and as it says up front, I'm not a financial planner, registered broker, and all that. Any gains you make are yours. Any losses you incur are yours. So, folks, I'm going to tell you what I know from investing in 40 years, and you get a feel of the market, just like you get a feel of anything, just like driving when you don't know what you're doing when you first start, you get a feel for things afterwards. Let me move on to DIG real quickly here. Oil and gas, as I've said, is the future. DIG went down substantially, as you can see today. I was a little unplugged with all the phone calls, so I can't tell you I know precisely why, but you can see it's at 120. If you haven't heard before, I bought some at 63. I had a friend buy some. There's no news here. It could have been profit taking again, but here's something that I think is critical. This is a 1-day chart. Let's look at a 1-month chart. Let's look at a 6-month chart, and you can see that's a nice chart. Now, let me bring up, to put this in perspective, here is a chart that is from January of 2008 on Digg. This is Digg, January 2008, and it goes until the present. So look at this price. Back in June of 08, $1,100 for Digg. We go forward, and hard to see with that thing. So around 2014, here we go. June of 2014, $800 and let's call it $70 a share. We go up to 2018, $430 on June the 1st. So we come forward and we get this little dip down here back in October, and I didn't buy it then, but I did pick it up at 16. So that little dip here, look how loaded. Look how loaded. This goes back to 08. 08, okay? So that's what, 12 years? Almost 13 years now, going back all the way to the beginning of this chart. And here you can see that in November of 2020, just 4 months ago, it was down around $65. That's where we picked up. And you see that little gap up. I mean, it doesn't even look like much of a rise, does it? But you know, between 65 and the other day, we were at 130, and that's a double. And that was on March the 1st. So the point is, I think that on the oil and gas, we're reopening the economy of the world, and I think this has more room to run. So when you see it down to 120, as it is now, you know, I think this is going to go back up. I think it has room to run. I think it's logical that it would go back up. And again, when I always tell you, no one has a crystal ball, that includes me. But what I can tell you is that how many times in the last 100 years have we shut down the world economy and opened it back up? Once, and that's right now. So you have to use more oil. You just have to, because we're going to fly more, we're going to have more ships, we're going to have more trains, we're going to have more cars driving. We use it in manufacturing. We use it to make plastic table here. You probably got a million things in the room you're sitting in that have plastic, the computer screen. And all of that takes oil, and they make it around the world. So, plastic, that is. So Digg and Gush, I think, are going to continue to be things that we would want to take a look at and buy in. That's pretty much just for today, because as I said, we didn't have much else to go on. High Tide, HIT, if, HITIF, High Tide, which is the marijuana stock that we mentioned at 62 cents. I've got a chart on it, but let me see if I can bring up. It really hasn't been moving too much. I mean, it's at 61 cents right now. So not much to report there either. And that's pretty much it, folks. You know, here's one thing I guess I would say. We had the Fed chairman talk yesterday. He said they're going to allow a little bit of inflation. They're going to keep interest rates low. By allowing a little bit of inflation, the Fed their target for inflation is 2% on average. He mentioned that because the inflation rate now is below 2%, they're going to allow it to go up a bit. They don't have exact control over the inflation rate. That would, they have the money supply and they have some levers, but these levers are not exact. So that might have spooked the market that they said they were going to have inflation go up some, maybe slightly over 2%. You certainly see it already in gasoline, don't you? So the idea that the gas fell here, that could have been perhaps, again, I was a little unplugged today, that could have been on inventory. If inventory goes up in oil and gas, then that would bring DIG down. I do want to get to some of the other things that you've asked me about, and I would say when you ask me about it, if you know something about a stock and you say, instead of saying, would you take a look at XYZ because this has happened, it still happens all the time. Would you tell me why you think? I mean, if someone said, take a look at Humble, you wouldn't just want to say, would you take a look at, HMBL? You would want to say, would you look at this stock? They are opening up digital exchange currency, not digital transactions in different countries. They have a ticket thing. They have a deal they just did in Chile. I think this is going to be good. What do you think? Because I don't know the profile of every one of these stocks. So if you know something about it, that gives me a bit of a jump to at least see what you are thinking when you suggest I take a look at it. And then I can say no, yes. I mean, I actually had one friend this afternoon text me that he heard DIG was going to do a reverse split of 1 to 10. It's not. But the news that he was reading, he didn't pay attention to the date on the news. And that was last April. It was a year ago. So he was reading something, hadn't paid attention to the date. And so sometimes, I don't know where you're coming from when you suggest something. So if you tell me, what's the story behind why you like this stock? That would be helpful. And then I can look into the story and either agree with you because the evidence supports it, or I might disagree. But I'll come and say if I disagree. A lot of people have brought up HCMC and asked me to look at it. And I did look at it. I don't like it. And I have a sister who owns it. Why don't I like it? And I've mentioned this before a little bit because it's tied up in court, and they're hoping to win a legal challenge, and maybe they will, but I don't know how long that's going to be in court. In fact, the interesting thing is, long before I ever heard of HCMC and this whole legal challenge to the technology of the, I forget now how to pronounce it, the tobacco, the electronic tobacco machine. You'll know what I'm talking about more than I do. I know what it is. But anyway, the funny thing is I did an interview with the president of Philip Morris for America, or at least for the one division that handled that. And it's kind of funny now that I hear about HCMC and the whole legal thing that I didn't know when I was talking to him that was even a story. So relative to Humble, I think we're going to be going back up. Relative to some of the other stocks, there's some other interesting stocks, and I really feel badly that I haven't shared heretofore even some of the other stocks that I have in my own portfolio. I kind of mentioned a number of them here and there. INMD, again, I like that as a long-term hold. And there's others. I won't go through them now. But in any event, it's always kind of a nice thing to chat with you in the afternoon here. And so I appreciate it. If you're watching and you haven't subscribed, please do. You can also follow me on Twitter. When some news comes out, sometimes there's some breaking news, which I reported yesterday when the Fed chairman was announcing their policy on interest rates. I tweeted that. So sometimes, you might be at work or driving around, and if you follow my Twitter feed, you can get some breaking news. Other than that, I hope that we have a good Friday. I hope you have a good weekend. I'll look to put out a story tomorrow, and let's hope we're back in the green because there was an awful lot of red today. But either way, folks, I always appreciate you commenting. It feels like we're an extended family with people all over the world, and that's really a wonderful thing. I'm so amazed. Thank you so much, and we will see you tomorrow night.